what I would do. I would take a nap.
So there's really only two things to be mindful of.
Okay.
One is that in the course of conversations, a lot of people kind of get thrown off because when you talk, you move around and stuff like that. So if you want to move this, you're not going to break it.
Okay.
So do whatever, and you want it to be kind of
right up in your face.
yeah, not too far because it's going to be muffled.
Okay.
I know that's the thing because when you stick a microphone in people's faces, they get a
Does
little
that
bit.
cut me out if she's over there? Should she scoot her chair up more?
No, it doesn't
Just
matter.
be in the middle like this.
Yeah, you'll be able to hear both of you, but just pass it back and forth if you need to.
Okay.
I wish I would have known you guys both were coming. I would have set another mic up.
Oh, we're fine.
All right, guys. Well, first off, thank you so much for coming on my show.
Yeah, we're
You're
excited.
gonna really need to pick one.
Okay.
Yeah,
This.
I'm super excited to talk to you guys because when you and I had spoken on the phone a little bit ago, I hung up the phone and I immediately went inside. I was like, Jules, I spoke to the Shenanigo girl and she's hysterical and she's coming over. And so I just feel like you guys have a really cool story. And speaking of story, that was kind of where we left off that phone call. You said yeah, we have the craziest story. And I'm really anxious to learn the most about it. So before we get there, let's kind of introduce with some context. Just give a quick sort of introduction as to what Shenanigoats is and how you guys are building this community in Nashville.
Max, that can be all you.
Okay. I'm Max Knudsen, and I'm here with Jamie, who's my partner. We own Shenanigoats. It's a business surrounded by goats, and the services that they would offer include landscaping, yoga, entertainment, therapy, and then the goats themselves. And so Shenanigoats started as a landscape company April of 2017. And since we got started, Nashville, in particular, East Nashville, has been incredibly supportive of us in hiring us and having us in their backyards and sometimes their homes and for birthday parties and other events. But they've just been really supportive of us and very loving towards us and our goats. And we've really fostered this new business here over the past, year and a half. I remember last year at this time, we would count back and say, it's only been 100 days. It's only been this many days. Can you believe this?
Yeah.
I think the funny part about all of it, Max is very, very creative and is kind of a hippie. Travels and all those things. And Max used to just say to me, I want to retire watching goats eat. And my response was, why don't you get a real freaking job? One that has insurance and one that we know we're going to make money. And, because
She didn't say freak.
I didn't say freak, no. But it didn't make sense to me. I was like, what are you talking about? Right. Because Max's background is not animals. It's not, and Max started talking about that. And then we were watching my daughter play lacrosse for her school one day. And I looked on the Nextdoor app and this girl, Bethany, had posted that she wants goats to clear her land because her fence line was covered in poison ivy and all these things. And I read that post.
Right down the street from here.
Yeah, it is right down the street. Yeah. I looked at that and I looked at Max and I was like, is this for real? And Max was like, I told you. And I was like, this is not for it didn't make sense. So I messaged her and I said, hey, we have goats. We live totally close by. We've never done it professionally, but this is what they do. And we'd be more than happy to see if we can help you. But we didn't even have a trailer. We had nothing. I mean, we had nothing.
I said, what am I supposed to do? Throw in the back of your Pathfinder?
Right. So what do we do? And so I kept saying, and Max, both of us kept saying, if this is meant to be, so we looked on Craigslist, we found a trailer for $500 right up the street, got the trailer, and the job was amazing. And Bethany is now one of our good friends and is wonderful. And we've gone back several times to keep up with her yard. And after that, Max did a post on Facebook. And then what really got everything started was Jessica. This girl, Jessica, who was a teacher, wanted the goats. and I told her the price. And back then we didn't even know. You should have heard the conversations when we first started. Like, what do you charge? I'm like, $7. Like we didn't know what we were, and Jessica wanted them. And I told her the price and she's like, oh, I'm a teacher. And I said, I come from a family of teachers. I used to teach. I'm a social worker. I said, I get not having money. Let's just get them there. We'll get them there. Just make it happen. You want it. I want you to have it. And just do a social media post. Well, that post on the East Nashville Facebook page went, I guess I say viral. I don't know. I mean, I checked it today because I was telling the story to a friend. It had like over 600 and something likes and over 300 comments. And then that was where.
And I think only like 3 of the comments were bad, which going for an East
That's
Nashville
pretty good.
post, that's like,
I don't even know if it
phenomenal.
were that. Yeah. I mean, there was maybe 2 snarky things, but it was overwhelming. Just, oh my
It was
gosh,
your
this is
atypical-
amazing.
Atypical post.
And that's when people started asking for goat yoga.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell is goat yoga? What does that even mean? What is that?
We had read some articles, right? Because
I
other
mean,
people had said, you have goats, so you're obviously going to do this. And I was like,
What?
yeah, sure. Let me reseed my farm because it's like wintertime right now. And if anybody came out here, they wouldn't want to do yoga here
No,
at my
it would,
farm.
right.
Um,
But that was how it,
but people asking for it re-stimulated that idea, and backyards, and then eventually the green space at Mongo East and some other points around Nashville.
but the crazy thing was that this was not like one of our teachers who teaches for us all the time named Amber tells our story in the beginning of every class. And she always says this was a happy accident. And it was never. I mean, I was working full time as a psychiatric social worker at a locked psychiatric hospital. Adding something else to my plate was not in the plan. I mean, it's tough beyond, yeah. But the first class, people wanted it. And I said, we need teachers. We got teachers. We need a place. We got a place. Photographers were volunteering their time. The news covered that first class. It sold out in 3 hours. I mean, it was a joke. I mean, the whole time we're just like, what? But people leave and they're so happy. I mean, it was just, I don't know. I mean, and it started from there and it's been insane
Wow.
ever since. Literally insane.
So let me kind of dissect that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'll start off by saying, like, I don't know shit about goats.
Yeah.
So like I'm just gonna ask really, really simple questions.
Yes.
And feel free to like give, I don't know, kind of real simple answers.
Mhm.
But goats are very, very good like yard maintenance type things, right? Like aren't there a lot of families that would rather hire goats than cut grass?
Yeah.
Can they eat stuff?
Yeah, especially in this climate and the natural, I would say, landscape of Tennessee.
Mm.
I consider Tennessee a water state. Like we unfortunately don't know what the blessing we have here.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in Utah where water, it's actually the driest state. And so, you know, if people have a green lawn, it's because they water their lawn and they run out there and they turn their sprinklers on and blah, 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 blah. Here, it's more of a problem with invasive species
Mhm.
that creep over your fence or come up year after year, and you're continuously fighting those things. Well, you're continuously fighting those things because a lot of times people are cutting the plant and then leaving them either there and the seed pod's still there, it dries out, goes to seed, and there they are back again. Or you can only cut so high up a tree.
Yeah, like
And
that
then-
vine that's killing my tree out front.
Right.
That parasitical vine, right?
Yeah.
And so then the seeds are up high and they climb out over the branches and they drop down in your lawn and then they start coming up again.
So they eat poison ivy, sumac, honeysuckle, all the things that are, rose bushes. They can eat the thorns. I mean, it's,
You leave goats in a space long enough, you won't have a landscape at all. You probably won't have a barn either because they are browsers. So they constantly are looking for what they eat. Sheep are grazers. Their heads are down and they are eating grass. But the goats are actually looking for, what does this taste like? What is this? What is that? Yeah. And they like a combination of leaves and bark and, all the greens that they can stuff in their mouth. And they have 4 chambers within their stomach which the food passes through and then sometimes back up again. So every once in a while they burp or cough or
Does that ever happen during like a yoga session?
Yeah.
So we have to tell everybody at the beginning, at the beginning of the class, they eat 75% of their body weight every day. I mean,
Wow.
that's a lot of food, right? And then they burp when they're digesting their food. So a lot of times people get nervous because they see them coughing and they think they're choking and they're just processing their food.
Okay. So
But
what
they-
you're saying is they're like eating machines.
Yes, they're the perfect eating machines.
Yeah.
and then they drop out the perfect nitrogen pellet.
Okay.
Like cooked seeds, 100%. Like there are no viable seeds in the poop. And it's like a time release capsule that can go right on your garden.
You're so excited about the
I
food.
am, because I'm a gardener.
Yeah, well, there's like a lot of really
Even with chickens,
practical benefits.
even
Oh.
with chickens or with horses, cows, those poops, those manures have to cook for a while to
Mhm.
release some of the heat that they have.
the nitrogen, right?
Mhm. And so this fertilizer essentially can go right on your garden without burning or scalding or ruining kind of the ecosystem you have in your soil.
This conversation took a totally different turn, but I'm fascinated. with
Poop,
this.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Again, know really nothing about topsoil other than my grandmother had my mother had like a beautiful vegetable garden when we were growing up, and she would talk all the time about topsoil and how some of the problems were that in the summer it would literally get too hot, so you had to flip it to release the heat out. And so you're telling me that with goats, like that process of decomposition, I guess you would say, doesn't create the same heat, like it doesn't radiate. And so it's just like natural, good to go fertilizer that you don't need to cook.
Essentially, yes. That and rabbit pellets or sheep and deer are some of the most.
It's called cold manure.
Yeah, it's a cold manure, but it's eco-friendly.
Wow.
Essentially, it's doing nothing but good for your soil.
So it's not releasing methane.
Mm-mm. The green grass or the gases released are not the same as from cows and whatnot. And so that's an entirely different conversation, in America's addiction to beef,
Yeah.
because goat's meat, it would in of itself be way healthier for us to lean towards, because for one cow taking the space of the acre that it needs to feed them, you could raise 5 goats. So they really are a beautiful, perfect animal.
Mhm.
And I treat them a lot of the ways that I feel like we as humans need to be treated. I manage their stress. And so when we go on a job, I open up the trailer and the goats that want to go load up. I'm not pulling or pushing, grabbing and wrangling.
Stress is big for goats.
Stress is the
it's
killer.
big, yeah.
Stress is the killer for humans.
Yeah.
And so essentially they know, and on my job that's down there in Belmead right now, they're all under 2 years old. So they're young goats. They want to be clomping around and eating,
Mhm.
and then when we go and we wrestle them up, we may have to push a few of them in because we're leaving a place, we're not going to somewhere new. But I like the autonomy in our system. And we do it a lot with the yoga goats too. There's some goats that they don't like people. They don't want to be touched. They don't want to be there. So they don't go to yoga.
Yeah. Why would you want them there anyway?
Right.
Wow. Okay. So your business took a bit of an evolution where it started almost kind of like a landscaping type mechanism. And then you're saying like almost serendipitously, just because of like the hipster vibe in East Nashville, you got a bunch of people that say like, oh, you're going to do goat yoga. And your guys' reaction was, what the fuck is goat yoga?
We're like, why not? Sure.
At first was what the fuck is goat yoga? Because I didn't, right? Like I was like, and I'm Googling, and then I was like, we can totally do this. Like,
Yeah.
let's do it. But it was just not part of what we thought was going to happen. I mean,
Wow.
then, I mean, that happens. Then we call and this publishing company wants us to do a book. And I thought we were getting, like, I didn't understand. I was like, what do you mean a book? Like a book, like a hardcover book? Yeah. They call back on Monday. They're like, we talked to Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And I was like, sorry, I know I don't know you, but are you like for real? Amazon.com, like Barnes and Noble, like yeah. And they wanted it before Black Friday.
So are you guys writing a book?
No,
right
it's
now?
out.
No,
It's
it
been
was,
out.
This was last year.
It was
at
last
this
year.
time.
You guys
So-
wrote a book?
Like how?
Mostly it's a picture book.
I mean, it's a
thankfully.
lot of, so it was all like local Nashvilleian yoga teachers, obviously all of our goats, this amazing photographer, Ashley Hilbert, who has a studio here in town, who's phenomenal. And it
Yeah.
was like idea to hard copy of like hardcover book in our hand in less
By
than 3
Halloween.
months,
Yeah.
which
Halloween.
is
Wow.
totally unheard of from what I
Yeah,
understand in the
from
book
publishers.
world. Yeah.
They wanted in on the trend, I think, but
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that. So how much of this would you consider like a trend? Basically what I'm asking is like, why do people even want goats during a yoga session? Like what would they bring to the experience other than being kind of like a cute little thing to take pictures of?
I've
Tell me a little closer.
I've asked that same question to myself because I tried to figure it out. And then I heard the laughter, so it made sense. But what brought them there in the first place, I think it's our connection to animals. I think we've lost our connection to animals. And in some case, a lot of people have this unnatural fear of them. Dogs, cats, goats. We've had people come to class specifically because they had a fear of goats.
No way.
And by the time they left, they didn't have so much of a fear of goats. And then you meet people all the time that have never seen a farm animal. And so again, with our food, we're so out of touch from where it comes from
Mhm.
and what it looks like when they're babies and what it looks like as it grows and how it needs to be handled and treated during those delicate stages. It's not a toy. And if you take them as pets, you have to mind that they are a herd animal. So you
Mhm.
got to get more than one. So in our first year, that was another thing. I think we had 7 to 9 different people, not
What
people,
happens if they're not
goats
allowed?
come forward. Well, we had people come forward saying, hey, you guys have this amazing business. We see what you're doing. We have this lone goat in our backyard
Okay.
and we love him, but we just
He's not
don't
happy.
think, we just don't think he's happy.
Right.
And they're in our herd right now. And some of them, we had to teach them how to be a goat because they just didn't know. And they have horns and they can hurt somebody or hurt themselves if they, get in a fight with a very experienced goat. Watching them fight each other is an intense experience too.
Okay.
So what we get is people in these backyards and they get the goats back there and they're mesmerized. They can't turn themselves away. They thought at first they were hiring somebody to just come clear their poison ivy. And the next thing you know, it's full entertainment. And I don't think anybody sits and watches a dude weed whack their backyard.
No.
The yoga thing though, I have so many stories of people that have come to class that were going through a hard time. I mean, there was one of our friends brought a friend and she has been to class a lot and then brought a friend and that friend's husband had died unexpectedly a couple years before. And she came to our class and the friend of ours called and was like, that's the first time she's laughed out loud since her husband died. And I'm crying, of course. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, so it's just, there's such a powerful pull with animals, I guess. And since our, the ones that go to yoga are with us all the time, most have been bottle raised in our kitchen, literally in our kitchen, like in our house. And they love people. And sometimes they'll just pick a person and sit on their lap the whole time. And the smiles and the laughter is just, it's crazy. And it doesn't ever get old. I mean, we sit and listen to classes and everyone's happy.
Has it done something? So I guess for some context for the listeners, we were talking a little bit beforehand and you touched on it on your career and your job before this.
Yeah.
Has it done something for you guys personally with like your connection with people and with nature and with these animals? Got you out of the rat race a little?
Yeah, I mean, for me, definitely, because my goal, as much as Jamie said, go get a real job, I'm fully aware of my talents and abilities. And in my previous career, I made several millionaires and contributed to at least one billionaire. And so it was frustrating for me to be caught in that world and never have a piece of that pie, even if it was 3.1, 4% of
Sure.
that pie.
Yeah.
So always showing up and never getting to taste that pie was really frustrating for me for my entire career. And so I wanted to flip it on its head and say, all right, I learned the whole time I was there. And so that's what I did is I focused all my energy and attention on the business side of things. Because if I just wanted to run a landscape service, I could have kicked back right after running goats, gone and got beers and burgers and, forgot about the day and just next day ran and did it again. But instead of doing that, we've put all of our money back into the business, growing it, expanding the business. We have 2 trailers now, and I'm not going back. Not unless it's on my terms, And I think that Shenanagoats could be $1 million company in a few more years, if we stay hard at it and we're smart about how we work our business.
I have to say, Max and I have known each other since 1999. We met when we both worked at a summer camp in Maine. Max is one of the smartest people I've ever met. I mean, Max's brain is brilliant, almost to the point where, and Max will say this all the time, Max
Doesn't play well with others.
doesn't play well with others, but it takes me months. Like Max will say something, say in December, we're going to do da 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 da. And in April, I'm like, oh my God, we should totally da 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 da. And Max is like, I've been saying that for 4 months. It takes Max has a vision and and we'll say all the time that Max is the creative side of it and I'm the doer. So Max has all the ideas, and it's crazy to see, how everything unfolds.
All my goals are met. My farm mortgage is paid every month from the goats. And so if I wanted to cut out right now and sit at my farm and be a farmer, I could do that.
Yeah, but it sounds like you
It's
want
not
to scale.
right.
I do want to scale. I want to scale for a reason. And that's because it's not about the landscaping anymore. It's about people's happiness. We're afflicted right now. I think people in general, we're at odds with each other, and I think it's been done intentionally to us, to keep us stratified, because we're weaker when we're stratified, and we'll just pretty much fall for whatever, or whatever's on TV. And so, I want to scale because I feel like it gives us a bigger platform. I started my farm with the intention of helping queer Mormon kids get out of Utah if they wanted to, because that state has a problem with their kids killing themselves.
Yeah.
And Jamie has had a hard time in her life with direct family members committing suicide. So suicide prevention really is the underlying key to our business. And I sometimes say, if your father had held a baby goat 1 day or 2 days before, maybe he wouldn't have made that choice then. Not saying he wouldn't have ever made that choice, because humans are complex creatures like we've talked about. But if we can stop one person from making that decision, and for me personally, if we can stop nearly children,
Basically, when you're 15 years old, you don't even know.
From the ages of 10 to 17, it's the number one cause of death in Utah.
Wow.
Is suicide. And so there's a problem there. And I came from that place, and I know what the problem is. And I'm trying not to be confrontive and combative and tell those people that they have to change their ways. But I am trying to tell their children that know that they are different, that there's a place for them out there if they, they can stick with it, if they can get through, that there's a different world out there that they're not told about or not taught about.
I love that.
It just got real heavy, huh?
Yeah, but it's really,
It's real. Yeah.
it's very real, and it's funny how things always kind of come around full circle, because I've been in a similar situation, and I guess I'll kind of just share this with you guys. All of my like online marketing quote experience that I've had has been developed through a website that I started when I got sober. I'm 32 years old. I struggled like terribly with addiction, and I'm sure, I mean, everybody knows somebody that struggles with addiction, you know, but like what I'm getting at is it brought me to like the darkest of dark places. And I've had experiences in the last like 2 years or so where I thought to myself, like, God, I've been working in this field with recovery and helping young kids for so long that like it would be nice to just branch off a little bit. And like I keep trying, I swear I keep trying to like make this podcast and make this website that I'm doing like more of sort of an entrepreneurial type thing. But every single time I talk to somebody,
Comes back.
especially with entrepreneurs, like, because I've just learned that a successful business always has a purpose behind it. Because if not, like, there's nobody watching you, you know, there's nobody testing you, there's nobody that actually gives a shit like if you're doing the work or not. So like, unless you have the thing that wakes you up in the morning and actually drives you, it's tough to do it knowing that you could just as easily not, you know. It's kind of like in the same respect why I'm a runner and why I have so much respect for runners, because like when you're on the road and you're all alone, there's no coach blowing a whistle at you, there's no teammates, like you can stop at any time you want, and no one's ever gonna know. And so I think that when people have something that drives them in that way, sure, it's like great and it's inspiring, and I'm sure it touches some kind of like spiritual spot inside of you. But also, like, I've just found the two through this podcast to be so connected with like the sort of entrepreneurial, like, you know what, I'm going to go out on my own because I have this vision, and having like some kind of purpose of actually helping people. So it got heavy, but like that's obviously such a part of your story. And you know, would it be, what would you guys are building be what it is if you didn't have that thing, you know?
I feel like and I always go back, and we always go back to saying it's about feeling connected.
Yeah.
And having someone or something that you're connected to. You know, I worked at the psych hospital for 5.5 years, and my last 1.5 years was on the dual diagnosis unit where people are addicts and have mental health issues. And there's rarely somebody that's just straight addiction that doesn't have, I mean, everybody that comes in, and all of us have some sort of trauma. Nobody walks through the world and, you know, even if they make it like everything's okay, chances are like something's happened. We don't, you know, and when they get to that point, when they're with us in that hospital and we see them, there's so many of them don't have anything
There's
or
no
anyone.
connection.
There's no connection to anything except their vice, except what's keeping them, you know, and we're using because we're trying to numb and we're trying to escape and we're trying to, so the connected piece is huge. I mean, it's just so, and it goes back to just feeling like you're connected, and people feeling like you matter and that you can help other people and do other things. And the connected piece is big.
Well, for me, you know, there's half the time of the year I would really rather not get out of bed, but I have goats, you know, and they need care, and so because that's my job, and because they depend on me.
I'm so sorry. You can kick her down.
No,
I don't want to kick her down.
Listening, my dog is on the podcast.
Licking the mic.
And they love us so much, you know. I really, if I don't show up to work, then
They're not okay.
they're not okay.
Right.
So that's my motivator. Especially as I age and I hurt when I wake up sometimes. And
It's the worst.
isn't it like you young folks out there that are listening, you just enjoy that while you got it.
It's true.
It can be even just a simple ankle twitch, you know, that's just like, oh, that's aggravating.
Like, why does it hurt?
Because you got to go to the chiropractor. Probably.
That's what you think.
I got to.
But
But
there is definitely a purpose, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
and this is obviously fresh on my mind since Friday was my last day at work. But when I told people that I was leaving, and they're like, "What are you going to do?" And I was like, "Goats." Like it's all goats 24/7. They're like, "I don't get it." And it's social work in a different way. I mean, it really is. It's therapeutic in a different way. It's all of the good things, just in a different environment. I mean, kids. There was a girl that came whose dad died unexpectedly the year before. And the mom drove like 3 hours from East Tennessee to bring her for her 16th birthday and 3 of her friends to the class. And the mom and the mom's friend were watching them do yoga, and they're both crying. And I walked over and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is everything okay? What's wrong?" And she said her dad died last year. This is the first time I've seen her laugh. She hasn't laughed since her dad died. Right now, she's laughing. And I'm just, so I'm crying with these 2 women that I don't know. And you're watching this little girl who's been through hell, losing her dad. And she was happy. And it was,
Man.
it's huge.
Yeah. So on the outside looking in, it seems kind of trivial, go yoga. Oh yeah. What's the big spaz?
Mhm.
But these animals will change your life. And for the people that really do need a touchstone, an unconditional touchstone, they're happy to be there, at least for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
And then they want to be eating.
Mhm.
That's all they want to do. Eat and poop.
I'm glad that we have a purpose. I'm glad that there's something
I am too.
underlying that's pushing to make.
I don't think we'd still be hitting it so hard if there wasn't.
No,
Like,
I agree.
it's for anybody that's on the outside looking in saying, "Oh, we need to get into goats so we can catch this trend." Y'all should just sit still right there on your couch.
Yeah.
Because if you're not already into goats,
It's a lot.
then it's a lot. And mitts off. This is supposed to save small farms. So it's saving hundreds of thousands or hundreds, maybe even thousands of small farms. Just this little activity of goat yoga. And that's probably less than our government's doing for them right now. They're considered hobby farms. Anything under 50 acres or so is considered a hobby farm.
What's the difference? A tax write-off?
I don't know if it's a tax write-off, but it's more or less what they expect that you could produce.
Okay.
And that's because we have these massive warehouse factory farms. And again, politically, that's a touchy subject for all of us. But it's difficult to make ends meet if you truly are in your heart a farmer.
Yeah.
A lot of farmers work 2 jobs, and I wasn't wanting to do that. If I was going to work 2 jobs, I was going to own one of those jobs. And still I haven't been able to get the things done on my farm that I want to get done. But
What else?
well, for one thing, I got to buy a tractor.
We have a lot of big purchases.
You
to
hear
make
the
from
old
them.
joke of we sold the family farm and then we did this. Well, I bought the family farm and I inherited none of the implements that should come with a running farm.
Uh-huh.
And so, it's not my advice right now for people that if you don't have the capital, don't go in unless you have a really small micro farm that you can manage on your own without all the things.
Yeah, I like from a business standpoint too, that you guys kept your jobs. That's something that maybe worry is too strong of a word. Like, maybe not. I worry about it, that with social media and just this whole concept of like social media and entrepreneurialism being so closely connected,
Right.
that, people think that if I just start a YouTube channel,
I'll be
you know,
successful.
I'll be successful, and I like that you guys maintained your lifestyle. You did what you had to do until you got to that point where you could leverage it. And then you actually said, like, okay, let's commit.
Max
You want to
has-
talk about that time?
Max has
Moment?
wanted me to quit my job because I literally was working 16-hour. I mean, the phone it's on silent now, so we're not hearing it ring, but we've had phone calls since this has started.
I bet that's giving you anxiety,
Yeah,
right?
like I'm fine. Like
She's
16,
never fine.
16-hour days. I mean, like I don't know how to sit still because I have been just running for so long. And when we go back to talking about Max wanted me to quit because I think Max was worried, one,
Burning out.
because my job was dangerous. I mean, you're at a hospital where people are not well.
Mhm.
Max said, picked up my kids from school on Friday, and they wanted to like get not champagne, but like kids, like whatever, bubbly,
Martinelli's.
like bubbly,
sparkling
whatever,
cider.
to have a party, like to celebrate. And I asked my son, what are you so excited about? And he's like, well, now you're going to get to do what you love with people that you love, me, Kendall, Max, and
Wow.
there's no more codes, which when you have the hospital and something happens,
Gotcha.
there's a code. And it's safer. And Max said, Jamie, you don't understand that you would come home and tell these stories that, they're scary. And
Yeah.
I'm like, and so we get caught up in, and I'm sad that I'm not at my job anymore. I miss already. And it's only the weekend. I haven't even not gone for a work day, but I worked with amazing people. And I know that I rocked at my job. I was great at what I did. And I was fully involved in all those things, but it takes a lot out of you. I mean,
We had a
you're-
hard sit down conversation last month. I don't know if we were sitting down,
there was probably a lot of yelling.
but it was basically like, you got to choose one or the other. And I understand if one fulfills your needs, but
Right.
you're in the way now of our growth.
Right.
And so as an old professional watching businesses thrive and knowing where to focus your attention on and figure out where the bottleneck is, Jamie was the bottleneck. She was trying to be mindful of me and not schedule too much because I was running sometimes multiple teams of goats a day. But when you're not booking appointments, when you're saying no, the brand is suffering. And not that you have to say yes to everything.
No.
But I basically was like, you got to choose one or the other because,
And the reality
we'll hire
was-
a person to do what it is to answer phones. We'll hire a person. So it was
Nobody can answer phones like
not
I do.
like her. No,
That's a tough
Um,
thing, right?
she is.
It's-
She's the front of the house. I'm the back of the house.
Yeah.
I mean, I get
Even
it.
just saying that I can relate so well, and God, I can't believe I'm going to bring it up again. Everybody listens to this. They're probably so sick of hearing me talk about this book. There's a book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, which is all about like replacing yourself and then getting out of your way so that you're not working inside your company anymore, so that you can work like on it,
Right.
But man, like the fucking anxiety that I would get from, especially because I'm a writer, like at the core of all my websites and my businesses and stuff, like the foundation of it, I can't really code. I can build sites, but it's sort of in like a pretty typical way. Like I can't custom build type stuff.
Mhm.
But the thing that makes me good is my writing and now a little bit of this podcast. Like I'm a good communicator.
Content. I
Yeah,
always say to
exactly.
Jamie, content is king.
Well, that's like the buzzword.
It is,
Yeah.
but it is.
Mhm.
It is, and I'm good at that. But being able to like kind of step away from some of those things, like I'm not joking, like real
Oh.
anxiety.
Oh yeah, no. I have not had my phone, and it's a point of contention in our family. Like, get off your freaking phone. Okay, get off my. You can do all the like here. You take the phone. Nobody wants my phone.
No,
The
but you
phone-
say that as a projection of a defense, when really what it is, the core of it is that your phone can be handed to somebody else.
But I don't know that it can be.
She doesn't trust that yet.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't trust it
it's
yet.
fine.
I don't. There's maybe two people that I would trust to have my
okay,
phone.
so the first question is when we interview people is how would you answer our phone?
Well,
Because if it's not shenanigans, like then they don't get the job. And I
never
didn't even do it
asked
right.
anyone
you say
that.
it right. You
No.
say it. Answer the phone.
I want to tell how she called and
Yeah, so the reason this whole thing came together, Molly, who was also there with Juliana, she works
Yeah.
with me. She still lives in Florida. She might actually move to Tennessee because she loved it here so much. But her and Jules went to Shenanigans, and Jules called, and you answered the phone. Hello, Shenanigans! And Jules was just like instantly.
she was
cracking the fuck
hysterical
up.
laughing on the phone. And I was like, this is the best phone call I've ever got. I answer and people are just laughing.
We definitely have had people say we chose you because of the name,
Right.
Over
It's a good one.
Right.
we had a
It's got
fast
great
follow,
brand.
Yeah.
so we, we're mindful of that.
But the anxiety of letting people, and we have a ton of people that help us. God, there is no way that we could do this without the
No,
people that have
yeah.
surrounded us. Like we were saying before, we've met the most amazing people through this last year and a half. But yeah, you got to trust people to
You'll get
do.
that.
I will, maybe I will.
It's still
I mean, the
stuff
fact that
now.
she's never taught a yoga class is probably in our
Taught?
favor.
Gone. What do you mean? I've never even done our yoga. I've never even done goat yoga. We need to change that. We need to take a class.
I get goat yoga every day. I
That's
don't.
true.
You just hang with me, babe.
So-
true.
You did mention something though, which I was thinking of like 20 minutes ago, but I didn't say it. I was thinking of it when you talked about your story with Utah and like why you do this and your purpose, right? And I haven't really dug into the web type stuff that you do. It sounds like it's been very word of mouth at this point, but you guys really should be doing videos or something. You
We
guys have great stories.
we
It's very-
really would like to. We
should.
There have been there's a list of things that we have, and now that I don't have my job, we're going to have more time
the
to do
constraint
those
is
things.
removed.
Yes, the bottleneck. I'm not responsible anymore. But yeah, no, the video component.
Yeah.
They're so funny.
Yeah, and like you could make a bunch of like really kind of digestible type minute-long videos of just quick interactions because I guarantee it. I've never even been there, but I fucking guarantee that basically every time, I'm assuming mostly girls, but where a guy comes in there and does something and they pick up a goat, they probably just have a huge smile on their face.
right.
Well, I do have to say that for the guys of Nashville, if you've been out in the bars looking for the ladies, I mean,
They're all
they're
of
all
us.
at goat yoga
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
in
All the yoga pants.
the most appropriate outfits for yoga.
Right.
And they're laughing. They're in a great mood. So if you wanted to approach a young lady,
Let's not.
I
do
would
that.
say you should use the goat language that our young goats use when they are
Stop.
approaching a lady.
Oh, see, now you're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. Jamie has a video of it that she posted recently, but it's hilarious. They cat call using this little what
So a boy goat will totally. That's how he gets with the girl.
and depending on how high or low the voice is, you might just laugh your
It's
ass
so,
off.
It's so
when
funny.
you hear it. But like
We need
what?
to do videos.
What?
Stop. Yeah.
I'm
there's-
really serious.
You
You
know.
guys need to take that seriously
Yeah.
because that would explode.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows if I'm any good or whatever. I definitely have a lot of experience with online marketing. I'm telling you right now, like I know that.
No.
I've
do
already
it.
started writing Shenanigans the movie in my head, like little
You're way ahead of it.
Pixar like type of.
Max will
Animated.
sit in the backyard, and each goat like has a voice, and so Max will be like, he's over there saying, and then talks in the voice. I mean,
Short conversation.
you might have some problems.
Well, darling,
I
I don't know
know.
about you, but I might be your biggest one.
It's true. Video. There's a lot of things we want to. One of the most amazing. So I put my notice in at work. I gave 4 weeks, and the day after I put my notice in, we got a call from Stallworth, which is the rehab center that people go to after they've had a traumatic brain injury or a stroke at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So that
I like dog therapy.
yeah, so that phone call came in, and I've been crying a lot more. I think this is everything's so connected to like
Mhm.
Her
It's a
own
whole-
grief.
my own grief, right? That's a whole other story. But like, yes. So they're capable of doing so many things, and the goodness that they can do is it's so powerful.
It's amazing.
It really is. I got that. It was a text, I think, or a voicemail, and I just said, "You made my day." I mean, like this made my day. Yes, I will be there, and I will be there as often as you want me to be there, because people are fighting to get healthy, whether it's from addiction or traumatic brain injury or a stroke or whatever.
I
And
think just I think people are fighting
Right.
to get well.
Right.
You watch it, and the long and short of it is if you're still breathing, something in you still wants to keep ticking,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. And so sometimes you just have to find that reason. If it's goat yoga next Friday, great, will be that reason. Like wherever it is, we've constantly said it. It's all about the goats. And, I could see us going into several different fields, not just around goat health and what the goats produce, but also the therapeutic side of things. We could have Harvey Milk, who's one of our fainting goats, walk around a geriatric center. Well, what was hilarious is we got him as a baby, and I was calling him Milk because he drank milk really funny. And he drank milk like it was going to be there all day. Like he just was slower than anything. And Jamie was calling him Harvey, and we didn't know that we both had named him.
He totally looked like an old man.
And so then when we figured out both of us had named him something,
Wow.
that's how Harvey Milk is.
That couldn't be more.
Isn't that
And
crazy? Yeah.
he is the sweetest goat, and he's able to work in the vineyard with the baby goats because he can't jump up.
He's a fainter,
he's-
so he's
so
one of the
he's
ones that you
stiff-
see that. Yeah.
The Tennessee stiffleggers.
Yeah.
We did castrate him recently, and I think he's walking a little bit better now.
Poor buddy.
Man, first off, thanks so much. This is by far the favorite podcast I've ever done with anybody.
Good.
I love you guys' story. I think it doesn't take long to see that it's a lot more than just kind of like a gimmick, and I know that the experience of being there tells that story just simply because of how fucking amped up Julie when I walk back into the house. We could really keep going, and I guess I would love to kind of have you guys back and follow along on the journey. But to finish up, where can people find about you? Do you guys find more about you? You have a website?
So we have, shenanigoats.com is our website, which everything has happened so fast. So that needs to be updated and is in the process of being updated. Our studio is technically, the mailing address is Madison, but the end of the driveway is Nashville. So it's just off
Okay,
Briley and
there.
65. Yeah,
Cool.
literally 6 minutes from here. We're at Old School Farm a lot, which is an amazing farm to table venue. They have the most amazing farm to table food you've ever had. Ever. It is phenomenal. And their executive chef and their dessert pastry chef, Kirsty and Danielle, these badass women that win awards constantly for their food. So we're there a lot doing yoga. We're at hotels. We're all over. I think we're going to be all over now more because I have more time.
Because
I
the
got
constraint was
time.
removed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then goats are available to go out and they go to birthday parties. One of them was part of a homecoming proposal.
Yeah.
I know.
And then if for any moms out there that might be out in Utah or any other area, Mormon moms and whatnot, if you have a kid that you think may be struggling with identity issues or sexuality, contact the Mama Dragons. The Mama Dragons is an organization in Utah that is dedicated to the health and well-being of all children. And don't believe that any God in any universe would differentiate the love they have for their children based on their identity or gender identity or sexual identity or any of those things out there. So
I'll link all of that up in the show notes for people so they can find it. Thanks again for coming over, guys.
This was great.
I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys are fantastic. Thanks for anybody listening to the podcast. If you could, give me a subscribe, give me a rating on iTunes. It's the best thing you can do to support the show. Thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you next week. See ya.
take care.
I want to steal Alice.
Alice, you did very well.
Oh, wait, she's caught in the cord. Ooh.